The millionaire father returned from his business trip and froze, aghast at the sight before him. His little daughter, in a filthy, tattered pink dress, clutching her 8-month-old brother. Her voice, thick with suppressed sobs, pleaded, "Please don't hurt me and my brother anymore." From that moment, every hidden secret of the house began to unravel. Robert Kingston, 43, sat in his cold office on the top floor of the Kingston Plaza Tower, New York. The chandelier lights gleamed on the gold-plated pen he held, next to a stack of thick files. His Rolex glittered, his bespoke suit fit perfectly, his Italian leather shoes shone. Everything exuded wealth, but Robert's eyes were empty, his heart feeling dry and barren. Just 8 months prior, his home had been filled with laughter. "Robert, look at Lily run. She's as fast as the wind," Victoria, his wife, used to exclaim, her eyes bright as she watched their brown-haired daughter frolic in the yard. But then Victoria passed away from postpartum hemorrhage after giving birth to Noah, their son, now just 8 months old. The grief of losing his wife had caused Robert to close himself off. He neither hugged Lily nor held Noah. "Just work, and I'll forget," he muttered, burying himself in business and paperwork to escape the memories. It was then that Seraphina, Victoria's best friend, stepped in like a ray of light. "Robert, I'll care for Lily and Noah as if they were my own children," she said, her gentle smile soothing his broken heart. Seraphina took care of the two children, from their meals to their sleep. "Thank you, Seraphina. I wouldn't know how to be a father without you," Robert said, his voice relieved. Believing his children had a surrogate mother, he entrusted his family to her, continuing to bury himself in his work, thinking everything was fine. After a month-long business trip, Robert Kingston closed the last file. He looked in the office mirror, seeing his tired face, his eyes deeply sunken. Suddenly, he wanted to go home early, unannounced, to surprise his children. "Maybe Lily will run to hug me. Noah will smile," he thought, his heart suddenly warming. Robert quickly grabbed his coat, leaving the office before his secretary could ask. His luxury car sped towards Rosewood Estate in the suburbs, a place once filled with Victoria's laughter. Now, he rarely visited the house, only stopping between trips. Today, he yearned to see Lily and Noah. The iron gates opened, and Robert stepped into the silent grand hall. The golden chandelier shone on the marble floor, but the air was cold. He put down his briefcase, took off his coat, then heard faint crying from deeper within the house. "Noah," he murmured, his heart constricting. Lily's trembling voice echoed, "Please don't hurt me and my brother anymore." Robert froze, his heart seemingly stopped. He slowly walked down the hallway, stopping behind the living room doorframe. Before him, Lily, 6, with tangled brown hair and a dirty pink dress, clutched Noah on the floor. Noah, 8 months old, his face red, cried incessantly, his tiny hands clinging to his sister. Lily's head was bowed, her shoulders trembling. Facing them was Seraphina, in a tight red dress, her blonde hair perfect, but her voice was sharp and cold. "Shut up! I told you not to bother me. Disobey me, and I'll throw both of you out on the street." Robert stood stunned, his breath caught in his throat. How could this be? "Seraphina, the one I trusted most," he whispered, his hands clenched into fists. Fear for his children flooded him, mixed with a dawning suspicion about the woman he considered a second wife. Rage surged, but he knew he had to act carefully to protect his children. He quietly retreated to his private study in the house, slamming the door shut. His phone vibrated repeatedly, his secretary calling about next week's schedule. Robert picked it up, trying to keep his voice calm. "Cancel everything. I need to be home for a few weeks, dealing with family matters." He hung up, exhaling sharply, sweat beading on his forehead. I can't leave Lily and Noah alone with her anymore. I have to act now, he told himself, looking out the window as the afternoon sun faded. The next morning, Robert woke early, pretending it was just another day. He sat at the breakfast table, Seraphina smiling a greeting. "You're home early? Is work going well?" He nodded, forcing a smile. "Everything's fine. I'll be working from home now. No more business trips. I want to spend time with the children." Seraphina nodded, unsuspicious, and continued pouring coffee. But inside Robert, suspicion simmered. He observed her every gesture, from the way she looked at Lily to her forced laughter. From then on, Robert began his secret surveillance. He sat in his study, his computer open to a fake spreadsheet, but his ears always listening to the hallway. Each time Seraphina entered the children's room, he would sneak out, quickly jotting notes in a notebook. 10 a.m. Seraphina left Noah's room, crying ensued. Once, through the crack in the door, he witnessed her yelling at Lily, "Don't tell your father, or you'll regret it." Lily cowered, her eyes red. Robert's heart ached, but he restrained himself. "Be patient. I need solid proof." He continued to document every small detail, preparing for the next step. Robert sat in his study, pen clenched in hand, eyes fixed on the black and white surveillance screen. His notes about Seraphina, her yelling at Lily, Noah's cries, filled his notebook. "I can't hesitate any longer," he muttered, determined to expose her true face. He needed clear evidence, not just suspicion. Late at night, when the house was steeped in darkness, Robert quietly took out the cameras and audio recorders he had prepared. He tiptoed into the living room, placing a camera behind a bookshelf. Angled directly at the sofa where Seraphina often Saturday, "She won't escape," he whispered. In Lily and Noah's room, Robert was even more careful. He placed the camera amidst the stuffed animals on the shelf, perfectly disguised. Looking at Lily sleeping, still clutching her blanket, he softly said, "I'll protect you, my love." Under Noah's bed, he hid a voice recorder, where the baby's cries often resonated. The next morning, Seraphina still smiled gently. "Working early, are we?" Robert nodded, pretending to be engrossed in his laptop. "Yes, very busy." But in his mind, the surveillance screen was running, recording her every action. Just a few more days, and the truth will be exposed, he told himself, his heart pounding as he heard Seraphina step into the children's room. Robert sat in his study, the blue light from the surveillance screen casting shadows on his tense face. The cameras and recorders he had hidden throughout the house began to expose the truth. Yet before him, Seraphina continued to play the role of the perfect mother. Each time he saw Lily avoid her gaze, or heard Noah's cries echo through the hallway, Robert's heart ached. "I won't let her hurt my children anymore," he whispered, flipping through his notebook filled with records of Seraphina's behavior. In the morning, Seraphina walked into the kitchen, holding Noah, humming, "Mommy's good boy. Eat well today." She smiled brightly at Robert, placing the baby in his high chair, but her hand gripped him tighter than necessary. Robert nodded in response, pretending to read the newspaper, but his eyes furtively watched Lily. The little girl sat quietly, her tiny hands fiddling with the hem of her dress, not daring to look up. When Seraphina turned away, he opened the surveillance screen, replaying last night's footage. Noah crying frantically in his crib, while Seraphina stood outside the door, coldly saying, "Cry more, and I'll make you cry all night." That afternoon, Robert almost choked when he watched the footage from the living room. On screen, Seraphina grabbed Lily's arm, her voice as sharp as a knife. "If you misbehave, I'll hit you harder than last time, understand?" Lily nodded, her eyes red, a fresh bruise clearly visible on her small arm. Robert shot up. slamming his fist on the desk, knocking over his coffee cup. How could I have been so blind? He chastised himself, anger and pain surging, but he forced himself to remain calm, to gather more evidence. One night, as Robert was reviewing the audio recordings, he froze when he heard a conversation between Seraphina and an unknown man. "I've met with the lawyer, and things are progressing well," Seraphina whispered. "Robert just needs to sign a few more papers, and I'll have control of the entire family trust. Victoria's stupid daughter will never know." Robert felt a cold current run down his spine. Not only was she physically and emotionally abusing his children, but Seraphina was also plotting to seize the family's assets, something Victoria had painstakingly built for their children. She had met with another lawyer to forge signatures and transfer control of the trust. Robert's eyes blazed with fury. He stared at the monitor, where Seraphina was smiling at Lily, her face deceptively disgusting. Robert knew he couldn't delay another minute. All this evidence, the bruises on Lily's body, the cruel threats, the diluting of Noah's formula, and now the plot to seize the assets, was enough to expose Seraphina's true nature. He had to act immediately to protect his children and preserve Victoria's legacy. Robert knew he couldn't fight this battle alone. He needed someone trustworthy, someone capable enough to deal with a cunning individual like Seraphina. No one fit the bill better than Arthur Jenkins, the lawyer who had stood by him in many major business deals and was also a close friend. Arthur was a seasoned veteran of the New York legal world, with a sharp mind and extraordinary acumen in handling complex cases. The next morning, Robert drove to Arthur's office, located in a skyscraper in downtown Manhattan. Arthur, with his neatly trimmed salt and pepper hair and elegant bespoke suit, greeted Robert with a familiar smile, but quickly noticed the tension on his friend's face. "What's wrong, Robert? You don't look good," Arthur asked, inviting Robert to sit on the leather chair opposite his desk. Robert wasted no time. He placed his leather briefcase on the table, opened it, and began to recount everything. From the night he returned home and heard Lily pleading, to the days he secretly installed cameras and recorders. He showed every video clip, every chilling audio recording, and even images of the bruises on Lily's body, Noah's pale face. Robert also presented evidence of Seraphina's plot to seize the assets. Arthur listened intently, his expression gradually growing serious. He did not interrupt Robert for a second, only occasionally frowning or nodding slightly. When Robert finished, Arthur remained silent for a long moment, his eyes sharp as knives. "Robert," he said, his voice deep and firm, "this is not just a case of ordinary abuse. This is a serious crime, and we must act immediately." Arthur quickly recognized the urgency and complexity of the matter. With his extensive experience, he knew that exposing an abuser with a plot to seize assets required thorough preparation and sharp strategy. "We will take her to court," Arthur declared, his eyes full of determination, "and we will ensure that she pays for what she has done to your children." Arthur immediately began drafting the legal plan, outlining each step to gather more evidence, prepare the case, and confront Seraphina at court. Robert felt a huge burden lift from his shoulders. With Arthur by his side, he knew he was no longer alone. On the day of the trial, the courtroom was packed, the atmosphere suffocatingly tense. Robert sat next to Arthur, his eyes never leaving Lily. The little girl was led into the room, looking tiny and fragile in a pristine white dress. Robert's heart clenched. He felt his chest tighten. Seraphina, sitting on the opposite side, maintained a cold, emotionless face, as if what was happening had nothing to do with her. Arthur called Lily to testify. As she stepped up to the witness stand, the entire courtroom seemed to hold its breath. Lily gripped Robert's hand, her tiny hand trembling. She looked up with her clear blue eyes directly at the judge. The judge gently asked Lily about her life. Lily's voice was initially very small, almost a whisper, but when Arthur asked about Seraphina, about what had happened, a strange strength suddenly ignited within the little girl. With tear-filled but resilient eyes, Lily began to recount her story. Her voice gradually became clearer, every word a raw, heartbreaking truth. She said she would sell Noah and kick me and my brother out of the house if I wasn't good, Lily said, her voice trembling but firm. The courtroom fell silent, only Lily's faint sobs echoing. At this point, Seraphina suddenly broke the silence. She sprang up, her eyes wide with fury. "The child is lying. It's all made up. She just wants to humiliate me," Seraphina screamed, pointing directly at Lily. The judge banged his gavel, demanding order, but Seraphina continued, her voice shrill. "Those are just lies from a spoiled child. Robert taught her to lie to ruin me." Arthur immediately objected, but Seraphina did not stop. She struggled, trying to lunge at Lily, but was held back by security guards. "I loved them. I took care of them. It's Robert who neglected his children," she shrieked, blaming Robert instead. Robert felt extreme anger, but he managed to keep calm, squeezing Lily's hand. The child cowered in fear, pressing close to him. Then Lily spoke of the beatings. "She hit me with a belt. It hurt very much. The bruises wouldn't go away." The little girl held up her tiny hands, where faint scars still lingered like undeniable living proof. Whispers began to rise in the courtroom. The climax of the testimony was when Lily recounted the cold nights. "She made me and Noah sleep in a dark, cold room, without blankets. I had to hold my brother tight so he wouldn't be cold." Robert felt tears stream down his face. He imagined his two tiny children huddled in the cold darkness, his heart tearing apart. He clenched his fist, trying to suppress his emotions. When Lily finished her testimony, she turned to look at Robert, her eyes filled with fear but also profound trust. The entire courtroom was immersed in emotion and indignation. The judge looked at Seraphina with eyes full of condemnation. Seraphina still tried to maintain an impassive expression, but Robert could see a flicker of fear in her eyes. Lily's truthful and courageous testimony had pierced through Seraphina's mask, revealing a horrifying truth that no one could deny. After Lily's heartbreaking testimony, as Seraphina still struggled and screamed baseless accusations, Arthur Jenkins stood up, his demeanor calm, but his eyes sharp as knives. "Your Honor," Arthur said, his voice decisive, "we have irrefutable evidence to prove that Miss Lily Kingston's testimony is true." He motioned to his assistant. The large screen behind Arthur lit up, displaying a video clip. It was footage from a hidden camera in the living room. Seraphina grabbing Lily's arm, her face contorted in anger, her voice razor sharp. "If you misbehave, I'll hit you harder than last time, understand?" And then, the scene of Seraphina whipping Lily with a belt, the sound of the lash and the little girl's screams echoing through the courtroom. The entire room was filled with outrage, many unable to stifle gasps. Robert felt his chest ready to burst as he watched that horrifying scene once more. Immediately after, Arthur continued to display other video clips. Seraphina scolding Lily and Noah, coldly leaving Noah to cry frantically in his crib. After each video, murmurs of indignation erupted again. Seraphina sat there, her face pale, her eyes darting around in panic as if searching for an escape. Her deceptive act had completely crumbled. Next were the audio recordings. Seraphina's shrill voice was clearly audible. "I'll sell Noah. I'll kick both of you out of the house." Then came a whispered conversation where she discussed diluting Noah's formula and starving him. The cruel, inhumane words horrified everyone in the courtroom. Arthur didn't stop there. He presented the forged documents Seraphina had prepared to seize the family trust. He showed copies of forged signatures, suspicious financial transactions, and evidence that Seraphina had secretly met with her own lawyer to execute this plot. Each piece of evidence Arthur presented was a hammer blow against Seraphina's denials. The vivid images and sounds proved not only physical and emotional abuse, but also her boundless cruelty and greed. Seraphina was completely exposed. She slumped in her chair, her face white, without any trace of defiance left. Arthur concluded his presentation with a strong statement. Your Honor, this evidence is not just accusations. It is the truth. The truth about a woman who abused, neglected, and conspired to destroy the lives of two innocent children. The courtroom was silent. Only Seraphina's choked sobs, the desperate cries of someone exposed, reverberating. The judge, with a stern face, rapped his gavel 3 decisive times. Order, he said, his voice resounding through the room. He looked directly at Seraphina, his eyes full of judgment. Miss Seraphina Davis, the judge began, his voice cold and firm, based on the full and courageous testimony of the victim Lily Kingston, along with the irrefutable physical evidence presented to the court, including video footage, audio recordings, and documents related to financial fraud. He paused for a moment, as if to emphasize every word. The court finds you guilty of severe child abuse, causing physical and emotional harm to Lily and Noah Kingston. Robert felt a surge of mixed emotions, relief, pain, and indignation. Lily clung to him, her small hand clutching his shirt. The judge continued, his voice echoing like a final verdict. Furthermore, the court also finds you guilty of financial fraud, with the intent to misappropriate the Kingston family trust. Seraphina sobbed, trying to utter something but failing. For these serious crimes, the judge decisively declared, the court rules to permanently revoke your guardianship of Lily and Noah Kingston. Robert closed his eyes, a hot tear rolling down his cheek. Finally, his children were safe. And according to the law, the judge continued, the court orders the immediate arrest of Miss Seraphina Davis. 2 police officers quickly approached Seraphina. She struggled, screaming incoherent words, but it was futile. They handcuffed her and led her away amidst her desperate shouts, which echoed throughout the courtroom. The courtroom doors slammed shut, taking Seraphina's silhouette with them, ending a dark chapter in Robert's and his children's lives. A silence fell, but this time it was the silence of justice and liberation. Robert held Lily tightly, feeling her warmth and heartbeat. The battle was over. After the verdict, Robert's and his children's lives turned a new page. Rosewood Estate was no longer filled with Seraphina's cold, frightening presence, but gradually filled with laughter and the warmth of family. Robert had completely changed. He put aside all work, canceled all his busy schedules. Now, his sole priority was to heal Lily and Noah's emotional wounds. Robert dedicated all his time to his children. Every morning, instead of burying himself in paperwork, he woke up early to prepare breakfast for Lily and Noah. "Good morning, my angels," he said, placing a plate of hot pancakes in front of Lily. "Do you want to tell Daddy something fun from school today?" He listened to Lily's school stories, patiently answering her thousands of why questions. "Daddy, why do birds fly?" Lily asked, her wide eyes looking at him. "Because they have strong wings and want to explore the world, just like you," Robert replied with a smile. He held Noah in his arms, singing him lullabies that Victoria used to sing, playing with him in the living room, watching the baby gurgle with laughter when tossed high. "Fly high, Daddy's superhero," he said, his laughter echoing through the house. Robert began taking his children to the backyard garden, a place long forgotten. This garden was once Victoria's favorite, where she often grew all kinds of flowers and fruits. Robert wanted his children to understand and cherish the place their mother was connected to. He called it Victoria's Garden. Under the warm golden sunlight, Robert patiently taught Lily how to tend the soil, sow seeds, and water plants. Do you see, Lily? Every tiny seed needs love and care to grow into a beautiful flower, he explained. Lily, with her small hands, carefully tended each flower bed, each lush green pot. "Daddy, this flower is so beautiful. Would Mommy like it?" she asked. "Very much, sweetheart. Your mother loved all flowers," Robert said, his voice warm. Noah, sitting in his stroller, babbled and pointed at the colorful flowers, his wide eyes sparkling with curiosity. Robert did not hesitate to share about Victoria with his children. He told them joyful stories about their mother, showing them old photographs. "Your mother loved pink very much, just like the dress you're wearing," he said, pointing to a photo of Victoria smiling brightly. Lily, for the first time, heard about her mother in a complete way, no longer a source of pain, but of boundless love. She was no longer afraid, but began to open up, sharing her thoughts and feelings with her father. "Daddy, I miss Mommy," Lily said, snuggling into his arms. "I miss your mother very much too, but she's always here." "In our hearts," Robert said, hugging Lily, feeling the trust and love growing in his daughter's heart. He knew that this was the rebirth of their father-daughter bond, the beginning of a true family, filled with love and connection that he had missed for so long. With Robert's unwavering love and care, Lily and Noah miraculously blossomed. Lily was no longer the shy, frightened little girl who cowered in the shadows. She became confident, strong, with an innocent smile always on her face. Lily enjoyed exploring the world around her, reading books, drawing pictures, and especially spending time in Victoria's garden, where she felt connected to her mother and realized her father's great love. Noah grew up healthy and plump, always full of joyful laughter, his eyes sparkling with happiness when cherished by his father and sister. He no longer had nights of crying from hunger or cold. Instead, he had sound sleep in the warm embrace of his family. Robert watched his children grow day by day, his heart filled with gratitude and happiness. He realized that the true value of life was not in multi-million-dollar contracts or towering skyscrapers, but in the unconditional love of family. He had kept his promise to Victoria, protecting their children from all dangers and building a home filled with love, where they could grow up happy and safe. Robert no longer ran from pain, but faced it with love and compassion. He understood that love, care, and the presence of family were the greatest strengths to overcome all suffering, heal all emotional wounds, and build a truly happy life. Robert, Lily, and Noah's home now stood as a vibrant testament to the extraordinary power of love, where every day was a symphony of happiness and healing.